The text came through at 11:17 p.m. on a Thursday night. My fiancée was at her bachelorette party in another city, and I was half asleep on the couch, controller loose in my hands, when my phone screen cut through the darkness. Miranda's name glowed above words that would dismantle everything we'd built. Hey, so this is super awkward, LOL, but I ran into Julian, ended up back at his hotel, and we accidentally slept together. It just made me realize I'm not over him. We talked all night and we're getting back together. Sorry, this is so last minute. We're flying to the coast tomorrow, so I won't be back. I read it once, then again, then a third time, waiting for the words to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. My stomach didn't drop the way you'd expect. No surge of anger, no dramatic collapse, just cold. Like someone had replaced my blood with something that couldn't quite carry warmth anymore. I was still staring when the second message arrived. BTW, I'm keeping the ring. It's a clean break gift, and I can probably use it for my future with Julian. Don't try to contact me, it's better this way. Becca will swing by for my stuff sometime next week. The ring. The $80,000, 3.5-carat monument to her vision of what our life should look like. The one she'd insisted on, orchestrated and structured entirely on her terms. When we'd walked into that exclusive jeweler months ago, she'd had it all planned out. "Leo, darling," she'd said, touching my arm with that practiced affection. "It's my ring. I want it on my credit. I'm building my portfolio, and a high-limit revolving line from a place like this looks incredible." And I, stupidly in love and eager to support her ambitions, had agreed. She opened the credit line in her name alone. $80,000 of debt attached to her account, her credit score, her financial profile. The arrangement was simple: her debt, her status symbol, but I would gift her the monthly payments. $2,500, automatically transferred from my account to hers every month. We'd been doing it for 4 months. I looked at her messages again. The casual cruelty of "oh," the breezy dismissal of "sorry, this is so last minute," the entitlement dripping from "I'm keeping the ring." I typed one word back: "Thanks." Then I opened my banking app. The recurring payment sat there in my transaction history, labeled neatly, Miranda Ring. I canceled it. The confirmation took 3 seconds. Then I opened my email and pulled up the jeweler's most recent statement. I attached the PDF, typed a short message: "Per your text, our arrangement is over. This is all yours now. Thanks," and hit send. It was nearly midnight, but I'd never felt more awake. The condo around me, my condo, the one I'd bought 5 years before I even knew her existed, suddenly felt like mine again. I changed the smart lock code. I emailed the lawyer my brother had used during his divorce, keeping the message brief and factual: broken engagement, cohabitation situation, asset protection needed. She's left the state with her ex. Then I turned to the wedding. $20,000 for the caterer, $30,000 for the venue, $8,000 for the band, $15,000 in non-refundable deposits, all from my accounts, all vaporized in a single text message. I spent the next hour methodically emailing every vendor, canceling everything, confirming the loss. The only thing we shared was a streaming service bundle in my name. I logged out every device and changed the password. By 2 a.m, I was done. I walked to the dining table where a $1,500 box of cream-colored wedding invitations sat, pristine and useless. I picked it up, carried it down the hall, and dropped it into the building's recycling chute. The sound it made falling echoed longer than I expected. I slept for 3 hours. When I woke up, my lawyer had already replied, asking for a 9 a.m. call. The condo was quiet in a way it hadn't been in months. I'd lost $25,000 in deposits and advance payments, but the real reckoning, I suspected, was just beginning. Her next ring payment was due in 5 days. She was somewhere over the country right now, on a plane to the coast with Julian, probably admiring the weight of that ring on her finger, completely unaware that her credit line was about to send a very polite, very firm reminder that the bill was hers alone. 6 days passed. The first 5 were blissfully, eerily silent. My lawyer, Alex, confirmed what I already knew. She had no claim to the condo, no legal standing as anything more than a tenant at will, and her own text message had functionally served as notice of abandonment. We sent certified letters anyway, giving her 30 days to retrieve her belongings from my address and her parents' address, documenting everything. I called my family. My parents were shocked, then furious on my behalf. My mom cried, though not for Miranda, for the $15,000 I'd never see again. My brother just shook his head and said he'd warned me about the ring. Then Tuesday arrived, payment due date. I was at my desk at work, trying to focus on a quarterly logistics report that suddenly seemed absurdly trivial when my phone started buzzing. Becca's name flashed across the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was exactly what I expected, delivered in that performative concern that barely masked irritation. Leo, hey, so Miranda is having some kind of issue. Her card got declined at dinner and she got some email from the jeweler saying her payment is late. She's freaking out. She said, "You always pay it. Did you forget? Can you just pay it?" This is really embarrassing for her. Julian had to pay for dinner. Call me. Embarrassing for her. I deleted it. An hour later, Miranda's mother called. Celeste. I'd been avoiding this conversation, but I knew it was inevitable. Her voice came through the line dripping with false warmth. "Leo, darling, I'm hearing some very confusing things from Miranda. She's on her trip, just relaxing before the big day." I cut her off. "Celeste, there is no big day. Miranda ended our engagement via text message last Thursday. She's with her ex, Julian." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut glass. When she finally spoke again, the sugar was gone. "Well, that's a discussion for later. The immediate problem, Leo, is that you seem to have forgotten a payment. Miranda is very distressed. She got a notification about her credit. You know how important her credit is. You need to fix this now." There was nothing to fix, I told her. The ring was Miranda's property. The credit line was in her name. My payments had been a gift, contingent on the engagement she'd terminated. The logic was airtight. Celeste didn't see it that way. "A gift?" she scoffed. "Leo, you're not a child. You can't just take back a gift. You promised to pay for that ring. You are obligated. You're trying to punish her for a little wobble." "A wobble? That's what she called it." I almost laughed. "She's on the coast with him, Celeste. She told me she was keeping the ring to use with him. She can pay for it." Her voice turned shrill. "Leo, you are being unbelievably petty and cruel. She doesn't have $2,500 a month just lying around. You know her budget. Julian certainly can't afford it. You've trapped her." The accusation hung in the air, absurd and infuriating. I'd trapped her by stopping payment on a debt she'd opened for a ring she was keeping to be with a man she'd cheated on me with. The mental gymnastics were breathtaking. I gave her Alex's contact information and hung up. Then I blocked her number. The main event came that night. 8 p.m., my building's intercom buzzed. I already knew who it was before I picked up. Miranda's voice came through, sharp and demanding. "Leo, open the damn door. The code isn't working." I kept my voice calm. "All communication goes through my lawyer, Miranda. You're not on the lease." Her response was immediate, escalating. "What the hell are you talking about? My stuff is in there, my clothes, my laptop. Open the door." "Are you psycho?" I explained it simply. She'd abandoned her tenancy. She needed to schedule a pickup time with Alex for a civil standby. "A civil standby? Are you kidding me? I'm calling the police, you abusive ass." I hung up. 30 minutes later, 2 officers were at my door. I met them in the hallway. Miranda was there, tears streaming, fury radiating off her in waves. Julian stood beside her, holding her hand, looking smug in a way that made my jaw tighten. The older officer looked tired, like he'd seen this exact scenario 100 times before. "Sir, we got a call about an illegal eviction. This lady says you've locked her out of her home." I handed him a copy of my deed, already prepared on Alex's advice. "This is my condo. I'm the sole owner. Miranda was my fiancée and a tenant at will. Last Thursday, she sent me this." I showed him the text messages. Her words, her intent, her decision to leave and not return. "My lawyer has already sent certified letters for her to retrieve her belongings, which I haven't touched. She needs to schedule a time." The officer read the messages carefully. He looked at Miranda. "Ma'am, this text says you're not coming back." She was ready for that. He's twisting my words. I was emotional. He's punishing me. He's stolen my ring. Julian stepped forward then, puffing up with misplaced confidence. "Yeah, man, he's holding her $80,000 ring hostage." I didn't move. "I haven't. She has the ring. She's wearing it." Every eye went to her hand. There it was, catching the hallway light impossible to miss. I explained the rest calmly. The credit line in her name, my gift payments that ended with the engagement, the debt that was always legally hers. The smug expression melted off Julian's face. He stared at the ring like it had just transformed into a live explosive. The officer sighed, long and weary. "Ma'am, this is a civil matter, a clear civil matter. We can't force him to let you in. You need to go through your lawyer, like he said, and schedule a time to get your property. We can be present for that to ensure there's no trouble." Miranda's voice cracked. "So, I'm homeless?" Julian muttered something about her staying with him, but the color had drained from his face. The officer was firm. "You need to leave the property, ma'am. This is his home, not yours." They left. As the elevator doors began to close, I heard Julian hiss at her, low and urgent. "The debt is in your name? You told me he bought it for you." The doors sealed shut. 2 weeks later, the war had gone cold and legal. The shouting was over. Now it was lawyers' letters and calculated moves. Miranda had started playing dirty, though not in the ways I'd expected. No social media campaigns, no calls to my employer. She was too image-conscious for that. Instead, she tried subtler sabotage. She changed her mailing address for everything back to my condo. Credit card statements, subscription boxes, catalogs, a deliberate paper trail to re-establish tenancy. Alex bundled it all unopened, marked, "Return to sender, recipient does not reside at this address," and mailed it back. We sent a formal harassment warning. Then she reached out to our wedding photographer, spinning a story about my struggles and her need for support, trying to redirect my $2,000 non-refundable deposit toward a New Beginnings photo shoot with Julian. The photographer actually considered it until Alex sent a single email explaining that repurposing my funds would constitute conversion. The photographer apologized, said he'd been misled, and backed off immediately. But the real escalation came in the form of a legal demand letter. Miranda had hired a lawyer, and the claims were stunning in their audacity. She alleged unlawful eviction, claiming her text was written under duress and demanding $10,000 in damages for emotional distress and alternative lodging. She claimed half the furniture, the sound system, and artwork I'd bought years before I met her, calling them gifts to her. And then the masterpiece. She admitted the credit line was in her name, but claimed I'd fraudulently induced her into opening it with a verbal promise to make all payments. She demanded I either assume the full $80,000 debt immediately or pay her a lump sum of $120,000, $80,000 for the ring, $40,000 for punitive damages and credit repair, so she could pay it off herself. She was suing me to pay for the ring she was keeping, the ring she was wearing while living with the man she'd left me for. I actually laughed when Alex read it to me. He just smiled, calm and unshaken. Our response was surgical. We attached her text messages, noting that phrases like LOL and sorry this is so last minute don't suggest a person under duress. We provided the police report. We attached receipts for every piece of furniture and art she claimed, all purchased from my accounts before she'd even moved in. And on the ring, Alex crafted something beautiful. Miranda, a professional in luxury branding, had willfully opened a line of credit in her own name to build her portfolio. She was a sophisticated party to that agreement. My gift payments were conditional on the marriage she'd unilaterally ended. By her own admission in her text, she was keeping the ring. She couldn't simultaneously keep the asset and discard the liability. My single-word response, thanks, was formal acceptance of her new terms. Any further claims would be met with a countersuit for harassment. 48 hours of silence followed. Then my phone rang from a blocked number. Julian's voice came through, desperate and frayed. "Man, you have to help me. She's insane. She's getting calls from the jeweler nonstop. Collection agencies, it's only been 2 weeks. They're high interest, man. She told me it was paid for. I can't be part of this." I kept my voice flat. "That sounds like a you and her problem, Julian." He pushed harder, frantic now. "No, listen. She wants to sell it, but she took it to a jeweler here and they said resale on a custom piece like that is like 30,000 tops. She's 50,000 in the hole. She's screaming and crying all day. Her credit is already shot. She can't even get a new credit card. You gotta just pay it for her. You loved her, right? You're ruining her life." I let the silence stretch before I answered. "I'm ruining her life by not paying for the ring she's wearing while living with you." I hung up. The reality had finally landed. The $80,000 ring had a resale value of $30,000. She'd missed the first payment. Her interest rate had probably spiked to the penalty APR, 29.99% on those store cards. She was $50,000 in debt and it was growing every single day. Her credit score was cratering, and her new future had just called me, begging me to fix it. Friday morning arrived, the civil standby. Alex had instructed me to be polite, non-confrontational, and to have everything of hers packed, itemized, and ready by the door. I'd spent Thursday night doing exactly that. Clothes, shoes, 15 different kinds of face cream, her laptop, her curling irons, all of it sorted and boxed. 14 boxes total, stacked neatly in the entryway. At 10 a.m. sharp, the same tired police officer from before arrived with Alex. Miranda, Celeste, and Becca stood in the hallway. Julian was notably absent. Smart man, he'd learned faster than I had. The officer laid out the rules. Mr. Leo will remain inside his apartment. Ms. Miranda, you and your helpers can retrieve the boxes by the door. You will not step further into the apartment. You will not harass him. You get your things and you leave. Understand? Miranda nodded, pale and hollow-eyed, refusing to look at me. Celeste looked ready for battle. I opened the door. They saw the stack of 14 boxes. Becca's reaction was immediate. "That's it? She has way more stuff than that." I kept my voice even. "Her possessions are in those boxes. Everything on the list she provided her lawyer." As they started grabbing boxes, Celeste tried to slip past me into the living room. "I just need to check the bathroom for her." Alex moved smoothly into her path. "Ma'am, you will remain in the entryway." Celeste bristled. "This is ridiculous. He's probably kept all her valuable things." I asked what, specifically. There was a beat of silence. "The serving platter my grandmother gave her." I nodded toward the stack. "It's in box 4, labeled kitchen." Miranda had been silent through all of it, mechanically grabbing boxes and hauling them toward the elevator. But as she picked up the last one, small and filled with jewelry and makeup, she stopped. She finally looked at me. Her voice came out shaking, raw with rage, and something that might have been grief. "You did this." I didn't understand. "Did what, Miranda?" Her voice rose, cracking. "You planned this. You knew I'd be ruined. You let me take on that debt." The accusation was so staggering, so disconnected from reality, that for a moment I couldn't respond. "I let you? Miranda, you insisted. You demanded it. You told me it was for your credit portfolio." She was crying now, full and ugly. "You should have stopped me. You set me up. You set me up to fail." The tears came harder. "You were supposed to love me. You were supposed to take care of me even if I messed up. You're a monster." Celeste wrapped her arms around her daughter, shooting me a look of pure venom. "It's okay, baby. We'll sue him for every penny. This is emotional abuse, what he's done." Alex actually sighed, a sound of profound exhaustion. "Celeste, the time for threats is over. You have your belongings. You need to leave now, or the officer will escort you out." The officer nodded his agreement. Miranda looked at me one last time, her face blotchy and contorted. "I hope you're happy, Leo. You in your empty, sterile apartment. You won. You ruined my life. I have nothing." I looked at her hand. The ring caught the light, heavy and undeniable. "You have the ring, Miranda." She stared at it like it was cursed. Then they left. The officer thanked Alex, nodded at me, and disappeared down the hall. Alex and I stood in the suddenly quiet entryway. "Well," he said, straightening his tie, "that was something. She really believes it, doesn't she? That you're the villain?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, she does." Alex assured me the threats were empty. She had no case, no money for a retainer, and no legal ground to stand on. But the jeweler wasn't done with her. She'd likely have to declare bankruptcy before her 31st birthday. The ring would be surrendered, auctioned off for a fraction of its value, and the debt would dissolve. She'd get her fresh start with a credit score in the 400s. He left. I closed the door. The chain lock clicked into place with a finality that echoed through the empty rooms. I'm still out $25,000. That stings. It's a significant, stupid loss, the cost of tuition in a school I never wanted to attend. I'm not happy. I'm not celebrating. I just feel tired, hollowed out, but also strangely unburdened, free. I don't know what happens to Miranda now. My brother heard from a friend that Julian blocked her on everything. Apparently, Celeste is trying to take out a second mortgage to pay the jeweler, but they won't settle. They want the full amount plus fees, which are now approaching $6,000 in interest and penalties. She's trapped in a cage she built herself, brick by brick, out of status and entitlement and the belief that image mattered more than substance. I won, I guess. But it doesn't feel like victory. It just feels like the end. I'm taking a week off work. I'm going to paint the living room, something lighter, something that doesn't carry the weight of what used to be here. Then, I'm going to see my parents. I'm done with this chapter. To anyone reading this, trust your gut. If someone's obsession with the image of a life is stronger than their respect for you, run. Just run. Don't wait for the text at 11:17 on a Thursday night. Don't wait for the moment when you realize you're nothing more than a supporting character in someone else's fantasy. Run, and don't look back.